Grass in a tidal fishery or just a tidal fishery in general it can be challenging. It's imposing sort of the first couple of times you do it before you understand it. But it is, as you do it a couple of times, you start to learn the tides and it makes more sense. So don't get discouraged, keep working at it. I'll talk briefly about sort of the thing that appealed to me with kayaks. Specifically, it was the simplicity. I mentioned I was in Northern Virginia. It's crowded, not a whole lot of space. I'm living in an apartment. One of the things that I was considering is you don't have a lot of storage space. So a kayak, you don't need a lot of space. A lot of these boats are in the 12-foot range. You can store them very easily. My pond prowler was heavy. It was cumbersome to get it on top of the car, to get it dragged down to the water. You're carrying a big, heavy lead acid battery, a trolling motor. So my setup time, there were a lot of days where, I want to fish before or after work, get on the water as much as I can. And it was tough to do that. By the time you load everything, get it in the water and get going, you're losing a lot of time. You had 2 hours to fish, well, now maybe you have an hour and a half. With a kayak, I could keep it on top of the car, grab it and go. It was fairly lightweight. I grab a paddle, a PFD, a couple of rods, a box with a couple of baits, and you're good to go. So I was able with the kayak to spend a lot more time on the water. And it really, those little trips add up. Hour here, hour there. It adds up over the course of weeks and months. Another benefit of a kayak is the cost. It really is something that anybody can access. I recently bought a small throw and go kayak. I currently run a 12-foot, I want to say it's 12.7, fairly good sized Hobie. It's a fairly heavy boat. It's my normal tournament boat. And I can get a lot of stuff in it, but it's a little more cumbersome. I got something that's a throw and go. It was less, I think it was less than $800. So, I know guys spend more than that on a rod and reel combo. So it's an inexpensive way, if you're young, you're up and coming, you're a high schooler, it's a great way to get off the bank, get access to more water, and really speed up that learning process for yourself. So I'll start into sort of the meat and potatoes of it, some of the baits that I like to use when I'm out specifically targeting grass. And I'll start with moving baits first. In general, there's a lot, these grass beds on a tidal fishery can be vast. There's a ton of water. It can be a little bit intimidating. If you see grass everywhere, where do you start? I like to start with moving baits and covering water, and then slow down typically once I find an area that has some fish. So one of my favorites, and it's no secret, a chatterbait is fantastic around grass anywhere, specifically on a tidal fishery. A lot of my experiences on the Potomac River, a white chatterbait has been a go-to for people for years there. And when it comes to trailers, there's a couple of them that I like, and it really depends sort of on the circumstance which one I choose. I've got a bag here with some spunk shads from Missile. It's a new collaboration with Hog Farmer. It's a 4.5-inch bait. That's the one that I prefer. What I like about this is it's subtle. The bait it tapers nicely, and you get a lot of action out of this tail. It works really well in cold water. You don't have a ton of action, but you have enough. It will trigger a lot of strikes, and you don't take away from that thump, that vibration that's pulling fish to it. The other bait, and I'll try to rig this, I have some D-bombs.